You've been lied to about discipline. Every influencer, every self-help book, every shiny motivational video told you the same story. Wake up early, drink water, check off a morning routine, take cold showers, post your progress online, and somehow, magically, discipline would be yours. That is not discipline. That is decoration. A polished version of self-control packaged for applause. It's child's play compared to what you're about to hear. Real discipline is not about checking boxes. It is not about feeling good about yourself. It is not about being productive. Number. Real discipline is war. It is the weapon kings use to rule. It is the blade dictators hold against their own throats just to prove they are stronger than the weakness inside them. And here's the brutal truth. Discipline is not for praise. It is not for balance. It is not for health. Discipline is for power. Cold, ruthless, unapologetic power. If you came here for comfort, leave now. If you came here for feel-good advice, this is not for you. But if you came here ready to kill the weaker version of yourself, then stay, because this first lesson will demand blood. The reason you are undisciplined isn't because you don't have goals. It's not because you're lazy. It's not even because you're unmotivated. It's because the weaker version of you is still alive, still breathing, still whispering in your ear. That weaker you is the man who craves comfort, the man who seeks validation, the man who wants to be understood, liked, entertained, constantly stimulated. He is soft. He is emotional. He worships pleasure like it's a god. And as long as he lives, you will never be sovereign. So discipline begins with a funeral, a silent execution. You drag him into the mental courtyard. You strip him of his excuses, and without hesitation, you cut his throat. This isn't motivation. This is eradication. You are not adding new habits. You are not layering more productivity tricks on top of weakness. You are burning weakness at its core. Understand this. The weaker you isn't harmless. He's not just dead weight. He's hostile. Every time you scroll when you should be sharpening, that's him. Every skipped rep, every broken promise, every late night wasted on nothing, that's his whisper. Every time you said, "I'll do it tomorrow," that was his voice, not yours. And here's the reality. Either you kill him or he kills you. One day you will wake up either ruled by him or ruling over him. You've been told self-improvement is about building. More habits, more goals, more tasks, more steps in your routine. That's the lie. Self-discipline is not about adding. It's about subtracting. It's about stripping the fat, cutting out the excuses, erasing the need for applause. You don't rise by building. You rise by burning. By walking into a room with no applause, no witnesses, no dopamine, no reason, and doing the work anyway, cold, ruthless, unshaken. That is the first act of sovereignty. Listen carefully. Discipline will not make you happy. It will not make you balanced. It will not give you comfort, but it will make you respected. It will make you feared. It will make you remembered. The men you look up to, the ones you call legends, icons, giants, do not live in balance. They live in blood and silence. They walked through fire while everyone else sat by the warmth. They didn't rise because they wanted to. They rose because they executed relentlessly in private. When it was ugly, when it was boring, when it was lonely. That's the difference between men who build empires and men who scroll until death. So here is where you begin. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Find one weakness, one excuse, one comfort that protects the weaker you, and cut it, cold. Delete the app, cancel the subscription, stop the habit, erase the distraction, and when you do it, don't post it. Don't brag. Don't announce it to your friends. Just remove it, quietly, irreversibly, because this first act is not for anyone else. It's personal, it's sovereign. This is your first execution, the first cut in a war that never ends. So I'm giving you a command, not a suggestion, not advice, a decree. Kill the weaker version of yourself. End him now. Stop negotiating with him. Stop carrying him with you like dead weight. If you want discipline, you must first want blood. And if you're one of the rare few who actually understand this, then say it now, out loud in your mind or in the comments if you dare. The execution has begun. Because this is where sovereignty starts. Not with balance, not with motivation, not with inspiration, with death, with silence, with the cold-blooded execution of the man you were yesterday. And when the weaker self is gone, the true version of you, the ruler, the sovereign, the steel-carved tyrant, can finally rise. You've executed the weaker self, but the death of weakness is only the beginning. What comes next is harder, colder, more demanding, because once the weaker you is gone, you are left with a throne. And a throne cannot stay empty. If you don't govern yourself, something else will. Society, pleasure, distraction, other people's opinions. The throne will always be occupied, if not by you, then by your enemies. So the second step of dangerous discipline is this: ruthless self-government. Most men fear tyranny. They fear control. They fear being ruled. But the truth is simple. If you don't become a tyrant over yourself, you will be enslaved by softer rulers. Your cravings will rule you. Your comfort will rule you. Your impulses will rule you. Your emotions will rule you. Look at the world around you. Men chasing dopamine like dogs. Men enslaved to food, screens, validation, lust. They bow to everything except themselves. That is not freedom. That is slavery dressed as modern living. So you must become a tyrant, not to others, but to yourself. Because only under the rule of your own iron fist can you ever call yourself sovereign. Every kingdom is held together by laws, not suggestions, not preferences. Laws. You must create laws for your life. Ruthless, absolute, unbreakable. Wake at the same time. Train whether you feel like it or not. Study daily. Protect your focus like a fortress. Guard your energy like treasure. And when the weaker voice whispers excuses, you don't debate, you enforce. Think of a king. Does a king explain his laws to peasants? Number, he decrees. And that decree is final. That is how you must rule yourself. You are the king. Your impulses are the peasants. They don't get a vote. Understand this. The average man fails because he governs himself like a democracy. Every morning he holds an inner election. Should I work out today? Should I get up or hit snooze? Should I study or just scroll for a while? And every time the peasants win. Comfort wins, laziness wins, weakness wins. This is why soft men drown in mediocrity. They treat their weakness like it deserves negotiation. But sovereignty is not a negotiation. It's a dictatorship. You don't ask, you command. Here's where most men break. They think discipline should feel good. It doesn't. It feels like chains. It feels like restriction. It feels like war against your own desires. And that is exactly why it works. Every time you obey your own law, you carve deeper authority over yourself. Every time you break your law, you weaken your throne until eventually you are ruled by chaos again. So discipline is not about motivation. It's about enforcement. Think like a tyrant. The law is final. The law is cold. The law is without mercy. You don't need to feel like working. You work because the law demands it. You don't need to feel like studying. You study because the law demands it. You don't need to feel like resisting temptation. You resist because the law demands it. Your law is your iron crown. Break it and the crown falls. Keep it and your reign strengthens. Here is a tool for your rule. Structure your day as a sovereign would, not a scattered list, not a to-do app, a decree. Morning, the throne rises early. Training first, no compromise. Day, the throne studies, builds, works. Deep focus, no wasted motion. Evening, the throne reflects, sharpens, prepares for war again tomorrow. Notice something. There is no space for weakness. There is no, if I feel like it. Only law, only decree. This is how empires are built, not through bursts of inspiration, but through daily ruthless enforcement. But here is the truth you must swallow. This form of rule is lonely. When you govern yourself with iron, you will be misunderstood. Your friends will call you extreme. Your family will call you obsessive. Society will call you unhealthy. Why? Because they are peasants, and peasants hate the king who refuses to live like them. But kings don't seek approval. Kings don't bend their laws to comfort the mob. Kings enforce the law, even if they stand alone. So understand this: sovereignty will isolate you, but isolation is not a curse. It is proof that you rule yourself, not others. So now your second command is this: write your laws, enforce them coldly. Stop negotiating with your impulses. You are not a democracy, you are a monarchy. You are a sovereign, and sovereignty is not granted. It is enforced daily without apology, without hesitation. Say it now if you dare: I am the law. My throne is unshakable, because until you rule yourself with iron, you will never be free. Discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do. Weak men spill everything: their emotions, their thoughts, their time, their energy. They are leaky vessels, easy to read, easy to manipulate, easy to predict. But sovereign men are silent, scarce, restrained. And this silence, this scarcity, this restraint becomes their most dangerous weapon. Why is silence so powerful? Because silence forces others into chaos. When you argue, when you explain, when you defend, you give away your position. You give away leverage. You reveal your mind. But when you are silent, you reveal nothing. You make others guess, wonder, doubt, spiral. Machiavelli understood this. Power doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being unreadable. A man who cannot be read cannot be controlled. Your silence is not emptiness. Your silence is strategy. Your silence is a weapon sharper than any word. Look at the world today. Abundance everywhere. Abundance of voices. Abundance of noise. Abundance of men who cannot shut up, who cannot stop posting, who cannot stop bleeding themselves out in public. And yet scarcity remains the most powerful force on earth. Why are diamonds valuable? Because they're rare. Why is gold desired? Because it's scarce. The same law applies to men. If you are everywhere, constantly available, constantly explaining yourself, constantly giving attention, you lose value. But if you are scarce, if your presence is limited, your words rare, your attention controlled, you become valuable, mysterious, desired, respected. Scarcity is not about withdrawal. It's about selective presence. You show up when it matters. You vanish when it doesn't. This is how kings rule. Not by flooding the court with endless decrees, but by speaking few words that carry weight. Here's what soft men never understand. Restraint is not weakness, it's control. Anyone can react. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can spill their emotions in anger or lust or fear. That's easy. That's childish. But the man who restrains himself, who feels rage but does not act, who feels desire but does not chase, who feels fear but does not fold, that man is untouchable. Restraint is not the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of feeling. And in this mastery, you gain absolute leverage. Imagine your enemies raging, screaming, begging for a reaction, and you give them nothing. That silence crushes more than any insult ever could. But make no mistake, silence, scarcity, and restraint are disciplines. They must be trained like muscles. You train silence by shutting your mouth when you want to explain yourself. You train scarcity by refusing to be everywhere, by resisting the urge to be endlessly available. You train restraint by denying yourself instant pleasure, by holding back when your body screams for indulgence. Each act of holding back strengthens the throne. Each denial is another proof that you, not your emotions, not your impulses, rule the kingdom. Society doesn't want you to be silent. Society doesn't want you to be scarce. Society doesn't want you to be restrained. They want you predictable. They want you reactive. They want you constantly available, constantly consuming, constantly posting, constantly giving. Because predictable men can be controlled, and scarce men cannot. This is why the silent, disciplined man is feared, because he cannot be bought. He cannot be baited. He cannot be swayed by every gust of wind. His silence terrifies. His scarcity intrigues. His restraint frustrates, and that frustration is power. But here's the truth you must face. Silence and scarcity will cost you. People will call you distant. They will accuse you of arrogance. They will demand more access, more words, more energy. But this is the price of sovereignty. When you refuse to give yourself away freely, you will anger the world addicted to access. Good. Let them be angry. Their anger is proof you are becoming valuable. Their complaints are proof your presence is scarce. Their confusion is proof your silence is working. So here is your third decree. Do not explain. Do not overspeak. Do not bleed yourself out for the world. Be silent. Be scarce. Be restrained. Turn your voice into a blade, used only when it cuts. Turn your presence into treasure, rare, guarded, valued. Turn your emotions into weapons, felt deeply, used rarely. And when people demand, when they push, when they scream for more, give them less. Because kings don't argue. Kings don't beg. Kings don't overshare. Kings rule in silence. And that silence is louder than any word. Say it now, if you understand. My silence is my power. My scarcity is my crown. You want power? Then hear this. Power is not found in comfort. It is not found in happiness. It is not found in balance. Power is forged in pain, endurance, relentless war against yourself. Discipline is not the art of feeling good. Discipline is the art of walking through fire without flinching. Every empire, every throne, every dynasty was built on suffering, blood, sweat, sacrifice. Yet modern men flee from it. They sprint toward pleasure. They medicate every ache. They soothe every discomfort. But the sovereign man, the dangerous man, understands something deeper. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the test. Pain is the proof. Every rep in the gym that burns. Every late night spent building when the world sleeps. Every morning you rise when your body begs for more rest. That's not suffering. That's sovereignty. Because pain is the crucible that proves you rule yourself. Today's men quit at the first sign of struggle. They quit when it's hard. They quit when it's boring. They quit when it doesn't feel good anymore. That's why they never rise. Because they believe discipline is about moments of motivation, when in truth, it's about years of endurance. Understand this. The sovereign man does not ask, how long will this take? He asks, how long can I endure? Endurance is not just lasting longer. It's crushing your weaker self day after day until he never rises again. It's continuing when every nerve screams, stop. It's refusing to bend, even when bending would be easier. The sovereign man is not faster, smarter, or luckier than others. He simply endures longer. Here's the truth. Your greatest enemy is not outside of you. Not your boss, not your competition, not society. It is you. Every day is war against the self that wants comfort, ease, indulgence. And every day you must kill him again. This war never ends. Do not hope for it to end. Hope is for peasants, understand. Sovereignty is not a single victory. It is eternal war. And the sovereign man embraces it. You cannot endure without training. You cannot survive pain without conditioning yourself for it. This is why you must train your body and your mind together. When your muscles ache under the weight, don't run. Stay in the fire. Breathe through it. Rule it. When your mind wants to quit a task, when boredom claws at your focus, don't break. Stay. Endure. Rule it. Every time you push past that breaking point, you are not just getting stronger, you are engraving your throne in stone. The weak look for shortcuts. The sovereign looks for endurance. Ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped quitting? Stopped negotiating? Stopped giving yourself permission to stop when it hurt? You would become untouchable, because no one can defeat the man who refuses to stop. That's the secret of relentless war. It's not about talent, it's not about luck. It's about refusal. Refusal to surrender, refusal to soften, refusal to quit. When the weaker man collapses, you keep moving. When the softer man complains, you stay silent. When the broken man begs for comfort, you demand more pain. That is relentless war. Most men cannot handle this. They think they can until pain arrives, and then they retreat back to their screens, their comfort food, their vices, their excuses. They will never know the throne, because the throne is not earned through talk, it is earned through scars. So let them run from the fire. Let them numb themselves. Let them live as peasants. You walk into the fire willingly. You embrace the scars. You endure where others collapse. And that endurance becomes your crown. So here is your fourth command. Seek pain. Train endurance. Wage relentless war against the weaker self every single day. Do not run from suffering, invite it. Do not hope for comfort, reject it. Do not pray for the war to end. Become the warrior who never stops fighting. Say it now if you understand. My pain is my throne. My endurance is my crown. My war is eternal, because until you embrace suffering, you will never rule. And until you endure without breaking, you will never become sovereign. You want to know why most men never become dangerous? Because they cannot stand to be alone. They cling to company. They cling to validation. They cling to noise, distraction, the endless chatter of the world. But the sovereign man is a fortress, and every fortress begins with isolation. Weak men fear solitude because it reveals the truth. When they are alone, there is no applause, no distractions to hide behind, no noise to cover the emptiness. That's why they run into relationships, into endless entertainment, into the comfort of groups. Because silence terrifies them. But isolation is where power is born. When you cut off the noise, when you stand alone, you face yourself without escape. And in that silence, the sovereign self is carved. Every king, every warrior, every philosopher, every tyrant who changed history understood this. Isolation is not loneliness. Isolation is weaponization. Think of yourself as a fortress. Walls high, gates guarded, only the rarest are allowed inside. Most men are open villages. Anyone can walk in, distract them, drain them, occupy their time. That is why they are weak. But a fortress stands tall. It does not bow. It does not let invaders in. It does not crumble at the sound of outside voices. This is the mindset you must build. Your mind is a fortress. Your focus is a fortress. Your time is a fortress. And the gates remain closed to most. When you choose isolation, you refine yourself. No endless opinions, no empty conversations, no constant input from the world. Just you, your law, your throne. This is why the greats disappeared before they emerged. Julius Caesar isolated himself before conquering. Philosophers withdrew before teaching. Inventors, builders, warriors, each vanished into solitude before stepping into the world with power. Isolation is where kings are forged. The world only sees the result. They never see the silence that created it. Make no mistake, isolation will test you. It will feel empty at first. It will feel like loss. You will crave company, distraction, validation. But every time you resist that craving, you grow stronger. Every day you sit alone in silence, you harden. Every moment you spend with only your thoughts, you sharpen. Because solitude is not weakness, it is training. It is lifting the heaviest weight of all, yourself. And when you can bear that weight, no one else can break you. Here's the paradox. When you master isolation, you master the world. Because when you no longer need anyone, everyone wants you. When you no longer seek validation, validation chases you. When you no longer bleed yourself out for attention, your presence becomes rare. And rare is always valuable. The man who cannot be alone is always needy, always chasing, always weak. The man who thrives in solitude becomes magnetic, untouchable, sovereign. This is the fortress effect. By standing alone, you rise above. Isolation is not just strength, it's protection. When you live like a fortress, the wrong people cannot reach you. The draining voices cannot sway you. The manipulators cannot control you. Because your walls are high, your gates are locked, and only the worthy, only the rare, only the valuable are allowed in. This is why the fortress mindset is dangerous, because it keeps your throne intact, while the weak are plundered daily by invaders they call friends, lovers, distractions. So here is your fifth decree. Embrace isolation. Build your fortress. Guard your gates. Do not fear solitude, weaponize it. Do not crave company, crave silence. Do not bow to distraction, fortify your mind. Say it now if you understand. I am a fortress. My isolation is my power. My gates open only for the rare, because until you master solitude, you will always be enslaved by company. And until you become a fortress, you will never be sovereign. Everything we've spoken until now, execution of the weaker self, ruthless self-government, silence and scarcity, the endurance of pain, the fortress mindset, was never the end goal. They were preparation, sharpening, forging, for what? For sovereignty, for the dangerous discipline that not only rules you, but rules the world around you. Because discipline is not just self-control. Discipline is empire. Sovereignty means rule, not part-time, not conditional, absolute. You are not sovereign if your cravings control you. You are not sovereign if your emotions dictate your actions. You are not sovereign if the crowd can sway you. Sovereignty means you are the law. Your throne cannot be moved. Your crown cannot be touched. And when you reach this point, when you rule yourself so completely, you become untouchable. Here is the secret. Once you master discipline within, it radiates outward. The man who rules himself can rule his environment. The man who rules himself can rule others. The man who rules himself can bend reality to his will. Why? Because most men are weak. Most men are ruled by impulse, by distraction, by noise. When you stand as the one who cannot be broken, others bend to you. Your silence becomes command. Your presence becomes authority. Your discipline becomes leadership. You do not chase power. Power begins to orbit you. But understand this, sovereignty is not just about now, it's about legacy. Weak men die forgotten, their names vanish, their existence dissolves into dust. But sovereign men carve their names into history. Why? Because they were disciplined enough to build something greater than themselves. An empire, a philosophy, a dynasty, a mark on the earth that outlasts their bones. That is the purpose of dangerous discipline. Not just survival, but immortality through legacy. Here is the bitter truth. Most men will never taste sovereignty. They will quit too early. They will fold when it hurts. They will seek applause instead of silence. They will crave comfort instead of endurance. They will die as peasants, never kings, never sovereigns. And that is why this path is rare. That is why this throne is valuable. That is why the man who embraces dangerous discipline stands above the rest like a mountain among sand. Do not misunderstand me. Sovereignty is not free. It costs isolation. It costs comfort. It costs endless war against yourself. But the reward? Everything. Respect, fear, immortality, the ability to bend the world to your will. This is why kings choose the throne, even when it bleeds them. Because the cost of discipline is pain, but the cost of weakness is slavery. So here is your sixth and final decree. Do not live as a man. Live as a sovereign. Do not settle for balance. Seek dominance. Do not chase comfort. Embrace war. Write your laws. Enforce them coldly. Guard your silence. Weaponize your scarcity. Endure pain. Become the fortress. And then rule. Not just yourself. Not just your day. Rule your empire, whatever shape it takes, because the man who rules himself eventually rules everything. Say it now if you dare. I am sovereign. My throne is eternal. My legacy will outlive me. And when you say it, mean it, because this is the end of the weaker man and the beginning of the sovereign one. This video is not just words, it is a blueprint, a weapon, a throne waiting to be taken, but only if you act. Do not let it fade into noise. Do not let it pass like another piece of content. Engrave it into your daily life. Repeat it until it becomes law. Live it until you die with a crown on your head. Because in the end, there are only two kinds of men: the peasants who lived for comfort, and the sovereigns who ruled through dangerous discipline. Choose.